So when they take the silver dollars, they got to go around different banks and cash them in.
Former Kansas City Police Department intelligence detective and now attorney Gary Jenkins produced 4 documentary films, most recently Gangland Wire. If you like what you hear, go to ganglandwire.com. Gangland Wire True Crime Stories is produced at the Big Dumb Fun Show Studio 4.
Thanks, Aaron. Welcome, everybody. And when you listen to this online a week or two from now, this is the first live recording of our podcast. And I think I hear a phone.
Yeah, it's my phone. That's a reminder, everybody. Please turn your phones to stun or vibrate.
Yeah, there you go. Mr. O'Malley. Anyhow, well, that lightened me up.
Mark Klein.
Yeah.
And then they go over to the First Ward Democratic headquarters to meet somebody. And, not sure what happened, but they come to find Charlie Binaggio there lying in his own pool of blood the next day with 3 shots in the back of his head and 1 through his left eye. And then they found Charlie, that's Charlie Gargata. Then they found Charlie Binaggio leaning back in his chair. He too had several shots into the back of his head and 1 through his left eye. And that shot through the left eye is a mafia calling card, which basically sends the message that this was a professional hit, and secondly, it disfigures the corpse so they can't have an open casket. Interestingly enough, they buried both of those gentlemen out of Holy Rosary Church down there, 5th and Holmes, I think it is, and they, Binaggio's funeral was huge.
Lassie is also...
Yeah, he was buried out of there. Oh, there are a lot of people buried out of that church.
All the mob funerals were held.
Yeah, Holy Rosary.
They were all buried at St. Mary's at 22nd and Cleveland.
That's right, exactly right.
all the ones that disappeared, they're buried somewhere else.
Well, we don't know where they are.
Okay, but they're not in Brush Creek.
We did find that out.
Right. Just disabuse yourself of this notion that there's bodies lying underneath Brush Creek. It's not true. Tom Pendergast did not order hits on people.
The 2 Charlies, they were essentially executed, and what you're suggesting or saying is that this was done by the other families from the other cities.
Well, okay.
As retribution for not delivering gambling in Missouri.
Well, now this is why, Gary and I and other people here ought to get together, because they will not give access to the investigation files of these unsolved murders. The Kansas City Police Department will.
Right. Any unsolved murder, you can't get to the file. Even though it's long since dead, everybody involved, they won't let you see them.
And I think that's a ridiculous policy, because clearly they're not working the cases anymore.
Clearly.
And, people could unearth, historians could unearth things that they might find in the file that might shed some more light on the situation.
Now, there is speculation.
Oh, there's a ton of speculation.
Nick Sabella had been in trouble with the local mafia, and he'd been robbing some protected gangs, and he'd ran to Chicago and hid out, and they brokered a deal for him to come back about this time.
That's right.
And then these murders happen, and Nick Sabella then goes on to be the driver for who was the boss at the time, a guy named Tony Gizzo, and this is like 1949, 1950, and throughout the 50s, by 1957, Nick Sabella is now named the boss of Kansas City at the Appalachian Convention in New York, introduced to all the families in the United States.
And it's
Kansas City.
It's pretty much presumed by people that Gary, you worked with, and other people I've talked with, that is probably how Nick Sabella made his bones.